Mahmud Khalil, a name that, until recently, was probably unknown to most Americans. But now, it's at the center of a storm of legal battles, political maneuvering, and heated debate about the very soul of America. See, Mahmud Khalil is more than just a name. He's a 30-year-old Palestinian man, a legal resident of the United States, a graduate student, a husband, and as of March 8, 2025, a detainee. Khalil's journey to the United States began far from the gleaming towers of Manhattan. He was born a refugee in Syria, his family's roots tracing back to Tiberias, Israel. He pursued higher education, earning a degree in computer science from the Lebanese American University before setting his sights on the prestigious Columbia University in New York City. He excelled in his studies, eventually graduating with a master's degree. Along the way, he built a life in America, marrying an American citizen and contributing his skills to various international development projects. But Khalil's life took a sharp turn when he became a vocal advocate for Palestinian rights. He couldn't stay silent as conflict raged in Gaza. He felt compelled to speak out, to use his voice to amplify the suffering of those caught in the crossfire. This activism, fueled by a deep sense of responsibility and a yearning for justice, would ultimately put him on a collision course with the powers that be. On March 8, 2025, Khalil's world was turned upside down. Immigration officers arrived at his Manhattan apartment and placed him under arrest. His crime? Well, that's where things get murky. The government claims it's about national security, about ties to terrorism. Khalil and his supporters say it's about something far more insidious: silencing dissent. Khalil's activism wasn't about chanting slogans in a vacuum. It was about real people, real lives being torn apart by conflict. He saw the images flooding out of Gaza, heard the stories of displacement and suffering, and he couldn't stay silent. He became a leading voice in campus protests against the ongoing conflict, organizing demonstrations, participating in debates, and engaging in dialogue with university administrators. His activism, however, drew the attention of those in power. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, a man known for his hawkish stance on foreign policy, accused Khalil of participating in anti-Semitic protests and supporting Hamas, a designated terrorist organization. Rubio's accusations, lacking concrete evidence and reeking of political opportunism, formed the basis for the government's case against Khalil. Trump, never one to miss an opportunity to stoke the flames of division, chimed in on his social media platform Truth Social, proclaiming Khalil's arrest as the first of many to come. This ominous statement sent chills down the spines of many, raising concerns about a potential crackdown on dissent and a slide towards authoritarianism. The government's response to Khalil's activism was swift and brutal. They moved to revoke his green card, effectively stripping him of his legal residency and paving the way for his deportation. To justify their actions, they pointed to Khalil's activism, claiming it posed a threat to national security. This claim, however, seemed flimsy at best, a convenient excuse to silence a dissenting voice. Khalil's arrest sent shockwaves through the legal community and sparked a fierce legal battle. His lawyers, a team of seasoned legal minds determined to fight for their client's freedom, immediately sprang into action. They argued that Khalil's arrest and the attempt to deport him were not only unconstitutional, but a blatant violation of his First Amendment rights. Their case rested on the bedrock principle of free speech, a cornerstone of American democracy. They argued that Khalil's activism, while critical of Israeli policies, was protected speech and did not constitute a legitimate basis for deportation. They pointed out the lack of evidence linking Khalil to any terrorist organization, dismissing the government's accusations as politically motivated smear tactics. Adding another layer to the legal battle, Khalil's lawyers accused Columbia University of colluding with the government. They alleged that the university, under pressure from political forces, was attempting to hand over Khalil's disciplinary records to bolster the government's case. These records, stemming from a previous suspension that was later overturned, were deemed irrelevant by Khalil's legal team, who saw it as a blatant attempt to dig up dirt and silence a critic. The legal fight to free Mahmud Khalil became a symbolic battleground for the future of free speech in America. It forced the nation to confront uncomfortable questions about the limits of dissent and the government's power to silence its critics. Mahmud Khalil's case became a lightning rod, igniting a firestorm of debate and dividing public opinion. It tapped into existing fault lines in American society, exposing the deep polarization surrounding issues of immigration, free speech, and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Civil liberties organizations, long wary of government overreach, sprung to Khalil's defense. The American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, denounced his arrest as unprecedented, illegal and un-American, arguing that it set a dangerous precedent for suppressing dissent. They were joined by a chorus of voices from human rights groups, legal scholars and student organizations, all condemning the government's actions and demanding Khalil's immediate release. On the other side of the divide, conservative groups and pro-Israel organizations applauded the government's actions. They echoed the government's accusations, painting Khalil as a dangerous radical undeserving of the privileges afforded by American residency. They argued that his activism crossed the line from protected speech into incitement and support for terrorism, justifying the government's decision to revoke his green card and pursue deportation. The public, too, was deeply divided. Social media became a battleground for competing narratives, with hashtags like #FreeMahmoud and #DeportTerrorist supporters trending alongside each other. The case became a Rorschach test, reflecting people's pre-existing biases and fueling a climate of fear and suspicion.